Hi, Susan Clare, GourmetQuilter here. Going to show you a fun little ornament that you could make with a little Christmas theme in mind. It probably wouldn't have to be Christmassy, but I'm using some Christmas fabrics. It's a no-sew project, just a fun little craft project. As you can see behind me here, I've got this little garland, and we've got these fun little people just hanging, or maybe just some fun little hats. You can do them in different sizes, you can do different colours, and as I said, it wouldn't have to be Christmas colours, but it just seemed to work. And I've just hung them on a little cord here with some little wooden pegs. They might be other little hanging ornaments, they might be things that you hang around with your ears, who knows. Quite cute. So this little tiny one here, I've just used some foam balls that are fairly readily available for the face, and I haven't done anything to it except we'll pop some eyes on it. I've left them white because I thought the white was quite fun. And I've used some fabric circles to make the little hats, and then I've got some nice fast drying craft glue, and I've got some little different size pom-poms and things here, pretty much from a craft pack of things, some pipe cleaners if you want a pipe cleaner. So on the larger ones, there's just the hat or with the little face, I popped a pipe cleaner around. I felt it needed a little something, whereas these little ones seem to be quite happy, these other sizes, with not having anything around the rim, but you could of course put something around the rim. And also this middle size that I've got here is a table tennis ball. So if you happen to have a collection of table tennis balls that you don't know what to do with, make some little people. So nice to have different sizes, but not essential. You could have a row the same size. You could just be making one or two to hang on a tree, or a little earrings, who knows. So I thought I'd show you what I've done. So we need to cut out some circles. We need something like some fusible web to put on the back of our fabric. So I've already gone ahead, I've got some squares of fabric here. I've gone ahead and I've popped some fusible web on the back with the paper backing, and then I've drawn a circle. So I have templates for all sorts of things that I make over the years, and I usually hang on to them. And so this happens to be just about the right size. I had these 6-inch squares of fabric. This is a 5.5-inch circle diameter template, which works really well for this larger size. This one in the middle here, or just where I've got just the single hats. The smaller size for this little one here, these little balls here are probably about just 1 inch across, and the circle I've used for that is a 3.5-inch circle. Again, I've got those ready to go here. So if we cut this one out, we'll show you how to do it on this. There's a little bit of gluing involved. With the glue, I've got a fast drying, clear drying glue that's great for all sorts of craft work. Fast drying helps hugely because we want to keep going with it, and if it's something that takes too long to dry, it just means that you've got to wait a long time in between. If you're making quite a few, as I have done, you can kind of multitask and do several all at once. So I've gone ahead, I've cut out my circle, I've got the fusible web on the back. So what I found, there's a couple of options. You could do 2 different fabrics. I could iron 2 together and cut them out, and I did do that here. But I did actually realise that you only need 1 circle per hat, and you just need to fold it over into half a circle. So you can either do a fabric each side, or hopefully we can peel this paper off. I don't think the fusible web matters too much. We're not sewing. It can be a heavier one if you happen to have some heavier bits. It doesn't need to be particularly. But I did find that by gluing 2 pieces together with the fusible web, it just gives it a little bit more body so that you can work with it a little bit better. It's better than just a single piece of fabric. Didn't need anything as stiff as paper or card in it. So just the 2 layers of fabric works really well. So I'm just going to fuse those 2 halves together so that I've now got a nice semicircle. It's double-sided and very happy. It's going to be a hat. So with the cord, so the next step would be to have this ready. If you're going to make it, if you're going to have a face, have that ready. If you're going to put a pipe cleaner on, we could do that next. That might be a good option to do next. We might put a red on there. I also would suggest that you might have something to work on with your glue so that you don't get glue on things like your cutting board or your good table or anything else for that matter. Have something that won't matter if it gets a bit of glue on it. So I think I would like to pop a little red trim on this. So I'm just going to glue it on, and I just find that if I just run my hand along a pipe cleaner, it just gives it a little bit of a curve, so it'll be a little bit easier. We're just going to glue it around the edge there. So I've got it all ready here, and I'm just going to put my glue just close to that edge. We want to glue it all the way along. This would be a great little project to do with some smaller people. They like to do little gluey things. Have some paper toweling or something handy, because the glue can be a little bit stringy when it's this fast drying craft glue type. I leave my bottle laying down so that it's already ready to pour. And then whilst it's all still nice and wet, just keeping this out of the way, you don't want to stick it onto that. That's probably the trickiest part of this process. And I'm just going to position that down, and because it's a fast drying glue, it does take up pretty quickly. You just got to work it around. And it'll dry fairly quickly. Now it's going to stick out because it's the wrong length of my hat, and that's fine, because unlikely they'd have pipe cleaners just the right length. So that's just sitting on that edge. You can see it's right on the edge there, all the way along. So you just want to let that dry a little bit. And whilst that's drying, you can make sure that you've got your string ready. So with my 10-inch length of cord, I'm actually just tying a knot in the end of that. Don't you love this festive season? It's so much fun to make these little fun projects. I had a lot of fun making these little guys. So I'm just doing a little knot so that it's a loop, and that's going to be hidden inside. So you can be doing all that while this is drying. Now, because that pipe cleaner is a little bit long, this is where you'd use some old scissors, workshop scissors, kitchen scissors, wire cutters, anything except your good scissors, because there's wire in here, but you can just cut through that pretty easily. We don't need that piece, save it for another delicious project. And then I'm going to glue the cord inside the hat. So this is now the outside of the hat. We're gluing that onto the right side. So I just want to find that center of the hat. So I've just put my edges together, just put a little pinch in there, just so that I can see where that center is. And then I'm going to pop a dab of glue just in that little fold that I've just created. Just a little dab. Oops, and it's stringing everywhere. That's what it does. And it might be helpful to have something like a toothpick handy, because I'm going to lay that knot onto that dob of glue that I've got there. And just make sure that you've got something to pop it down into. You can use your fingers. I tend to often use my fingers, but I come away with glue all over me. So, and then you've got to let that dry. So we are going to have to let that sit for a minute. I've already gone ahead with this little one. This is another one of these little tiny ones. So I've got to that same stage, but because I'm not putting anything around the rim, I haven't got the pipe cleaner on, but that is glued on there. You can see it's going to hold. These are very lightweight, these little balls. There's no weight in them, so gluing works really well. So when you're going to pop that onto the little ball, assuming that's what you're doing, you could just have a row of hats. You want to just make sure that you know how much you want to overlap to make that fit. So this is overlapping probably ½ an inch or so on that edge to make that sit about where I want it. And you need to know that, and you could pop a little marker in at this stage of where the overlap would come in, so that you can pop your glue over that area so that you glue it overlapping to the right amount. So now we can pop our glue on that area. And then I'm just rolling that over so that the glued area and these raw edges here, so that should come into a nice point where the cord's coming out in the middle there. This should overlap so the edges are all even here. Before you leave it to dry, just check that it's sitting the sort of size you want. I might have it a touch big. I wonder if I can still move it. Yep. Well, you have to work fairly quickly with these fast drying glues, I have to say. I think that looks pretty good. Yes. So, and I would now just pop something like a little peg of some sort on that, just to make sure it's sitting okay. And whilst that's happening, you could be putting a little pom-pom on the top. I've got some little pom-poms the right size here. Might have to be a little white one today. Well, it doesn't have to be that big. I've got some nice little red ones here. And again, just a little dab of glue. So you've got the peg holding, and that's probably going to be the back, as much as these things have a front and back, because they do tend to swivel around a bit. Again, just a little dab of glue there, and pop your little pom-pom on that. So that's just sitting on the front, in front of where the cord comes out at the top there. And then just let that sit and dry. This is looking pretty good now. If I pulled too hard, that would definitely pull off at the moment, because it is drying still, but it's pretty close. Close enough that we can keep working. So I'm just going to make the same thing. We've got to overlap. We've got to make sure we know how much we want to overlap. If you're wanting to put it on a face, you just want to check that that's going to be the sort of size you want. And the same thing, we're just going to apply some glue on here. And we're going to overlap. Doesn't really matter whether you put the glue on the top or the bottom. I usually actually put it on the underneath piece, but it doesn't matter a lot as long as you've got the glue in the right place. And again, I would just check that before I set it to dry. And yes, I think that's looking pretty good. It's a little bit harder with this because of the pipe cleaner. It just wants to pop open a little bit. So maybe you want to pop a couple of little pegs in, if you've got little pegs like I'm using, something like this, just to hold that along the pipe cleaner so that it's sticking down nicely. And if you were only making a hat, you're nearly done, because now it just needs a fun pom-pom. Give it a white one. And whilst that's drying, you can still go ahead and get all this bit done. We're going to do the little face in a minute. I'll do it on the little one probably. And again, just pop that on and set that to dry. So this little one here is probably just about ready that I can keep working with it. They're so cute. So I've got a little face here that I'm just going to stick inside there. And I'm going to draw some little eyes on, like this little one. So we'll do that, but I like to do the eyes last, because you may not be able to get everything in exactly the right position, and then you can see how it's hanging. And see some of the faces, this face is sitting up higher than this one is. So you just have to, and that's because I made the hat, the overlap slightly less on this one than I have on this one, is what's ended up happening. So I'm just going to run some glue now around the inside of the hat. Just inside that rim. Not absolutely on the edge, because the little foam ball will sit up inside, but close to the edge. And if you've got any little things on the little ball that are not quite so attractive, little dents or anything, pop them inside the hat, because then nobody will know they're even there. Now of course you could get really carried away and put another little ball on and make a little snowman. There's lots of things you can do with these little guys. That's probably a little bit big. That's a better size for a snowman. So that's doing really well. We might mark his eyes now. So I've just got a permanent marker, these are the Micron Pigma pens. I use these a lot on fabric and things. That'll work fine to do a little marker on here. You may have any number of permanent marking pens that will work. It doesn't have to be this particular one, but I know these ones work. And I just quite like the simplicity of just two little eyes. You could go ahead and put more on it. For me, just two little eyes peeking out is all I want. So because we've stuck the little pom-pom on the front side as front because that's of the way we've made it with the overlap on the back, then I would look at that and decide that's where I want my eyes. Now if you're not too sure about drawing straight on, I haven't got my pins here, you could stick a couple of little pins in just to see how the eyes are looking, but I'm just going to mark mine. So you want to come down, not in the centre obviously, because your eyes are definitely not in the centre, they're either side of the centre, and just a little bit below the rim of the hat. Do a little dot, and I'm just going to refine those so that I'm looking at them. This little round or oval dots with a marking pen is all I've done, and then I've got this very cute little guy. And this one here is probably okay for taking these pegs off now. And as I said, I think that's really cute as a little ornament just on its own, but if you did want to go ahead and pop the face like I have with some of them, you could do that, and it's exactly the same. We'll do it. We'll pop the glue around inside the hat here. Same thing, look for any imperfections that might bother you and make sure that they've gone inside or around the back or somewhere where they're not going to annoy you, basically. And just make sure that's sitting on there. Now, you can use other things for the balls and things, but just be careful of the weight. You don't want them to be heavy. Like I thought maybe you could use a golf ball. Well, you could use a golf ball, but it would be super heavy. So probably not necessarily the best sort of thing to use. So, and I've done exactly the same thing. As you can see here, the eyes are just a little bit larger because it's a larger face. But we'll put a face on this. Hang like that. So come down and just a little bit more space between them on this. And as I said, if you want to go ahead and put more of a face on, you could definitely do that. For me, eyes is enough. If you give them a mouth, they might start talking to you. So there we've got a little ornament. We've got a couple of little tiny ones here. So some fusible web, circle cutouts, some foam balls or ping pong table tennis balls work well, a couple of circle templates, some nice fast drying craft glue, and really that's all you need to make some sort of a garland like that. It's just on a nice gold cord. I've used little tiny pegs, they're all just hanging, and or you could have, they're quite close together, you might want them separated, you just might want to make one or two to hang on a tree. They also make really good little ornaments on a gift. I've done some little gift bags here and I've just hung them off. So I do have another tutorial that shows you how to make these really simple gift bags, and that's all I've used, just some fabric with a ribbon on it, and then I've just hung a little ornament off it, and I think that really jazzes up something. The fabric's not Christmassy or anything, but somehow it's got that little bit of a festive look because of the colours I've used on these little hanging people. You could have them as earrings. What more could you want? So that was a fun little Christmas ornament. Enjoy. Thank you.